Hey, this is Dr. Steve Young. In this video, I'm going to go over with you another common exercise I see done improperly in the gym. It's a side lateral raise for your shoulders. Right? So most commonly you see people hold the dumbbells, kind of do this, and kind of maybe rock a little bit, or maybe they're very strict with their form and there's no rocking. But if you notice, that motion of holding the dumbbell is sort of in this motion. If you also notice, I have a little shoulder model in my hand. This is a right shoulder. This is the shoulder blade, the clavicle, and the shoulder. Now, when you do a common side lateral raise like this, especially with the elbow bent, it presents two problems. One, with the elbow being forward, just so you can see sort of in front of my body a little bit, the shoulder joint comes up. If you notice in the shoulder joint, if you look closely, there's these two grooves. When you go in that position, those two grooves, they're kind of like big lumps. It kind of smashes into this bone called the acromion. Okay, so which is why if you kind of turn your thumb down and you try to lift your arm up as high as you can, that's about it, right? But if I lift my thumb up, or at least keep it neutral, bring the arm behind me, all the way. Okay, so here, thumb down, that's about it. I can feel it in my shoulder. Basically, the bones are touching each other and crushing. Right? So when you do a typical side lateral raise, the plane of motion, the movement pattern that you're doing, it's actually crushing your shoulder. Now, in between these two bones, whenever it does this, there's your rotator cuff, your biceps tendon, there's a bursa. So if you repeatedly do this movement, you get bursitis, tendonitis of the rotator cuff, or biceps tendonitis, because you're basically smashing those soft tissues, right? So the other problem with doing this is the elbow's bent. When you have a weight in your hand with the elbow bent, not only does the weight want to do this to your arm, the weight also wants to do this to your arm, right? So there's two moments or two forces acting through your shoulder. One wants to adduct, like bring your arm down. The other one wants to internally rotate. So just by bending the elbow with a weight, now you're stressing the rotator cuff. The external rotators have to work very hard to prevent your shoulder from internally rotating. Now, it's already working very hard to try to stabilize the joint. You see, the rotator cuff is already working really hard. The main function of the rotator cuff is to prevent this guy from doing that, right? So when you're doing this, in a deltoid, you're working your delts, big strong delts, your rotator cuff muscle is working to try to prevent this from sliding up, because that's what the deltoid wants to do. It connects from here to here. It wants to slide up the joint whenever it contracts. The rotator cuff connects from down here. It's like a tug of war. They hopefully tie, and nothing moves. It just rotates. Okay? So by placing the elbow bent, you're already taxing the external rotators that much more. If they fatigue and you're doing this, again, this is going to happen in much more severity. Now, the way around that is to do it in a modified way. I'm going to show you that. Right? So I'll give you a side view just so you can see. You're going to have your elbow straight. Okay? So you're going to lean forward. You're going to shrug up. The reason you're shrugging up is you're moving that other bone called the acromion out of the way. It's already tilting up. Lock your triceps. This way your elbow won't be bent, and you won't have that rotation force through the shoulder, and you come up. If you notice, it's slightly behind me. Okay? The reason we're going through this motion, this is as high as your shoulder can go. It's a full contraction of the shoulder. Okay, so in this plane of motion, you're avoiding two things. You're avoiding that rotation moment because the elbow is straight, so there is no rotation. And also by going behind you and shrugging up, when you shrug up, you get this bone higher so it's out of the way. When you go behind you slightly, it gets these bones out of the way so it doesn't crush this bone. So that modified technique can keep your shoulders much safer, healthier, so you can train much longer without your aches and pains.